Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Sunshine Coast Regional District regular board meeting of Thursday, April 22nd, 2021. I'd like to acknowledge that the Sunshine Coast Regional District operates on the traditional territories of the Seashelt and the Squamish First Nations, and we're very grateful to be here. I'd also like to acknowledge that today, April the 22nd, is Earth Day. And I'd like to start off this meeting with a quote from Jane Goodall. You cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. So enjoy your Earth Day, everyone, and we're very grateful that you're here joining us today. I'd like to officially call us to order at 2:03 p.m. and we have an amended agenda in front of us today. Are there any other items to bring forward on this amended agenda? Director McMahon, the letter?
Yeah, but that's a follow-up to recommendation 7 in the planning. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we will deal with it at that time then. Okay. Perfect. Are there any other items that need to be added to our already amended agenda before we adopt this agenda? Looking to staff to see if there's anything, directors? Okay, seeing none, I will ask for a motion to adopt this amended agenda a motion to adopt the amended agenda, please. So moved, Director Seegers, seconded Director Beamish. All those in favor? Thank you, motion carries. Before we do anything else, I'm going to ask for a motion to receive all minutes, presentations, reports, and communications, please. So moved and seconded. All those in favor? Thank you, motion carries. So first up on our agenda, we have the minutes of our regular board meeting of April 8th, 2021. This is Annex A, pages 1 through 3 of your package. Directors, before we adopt these minutes, are there any changes, errors, omissions, additions that need to be taken or done? Okay. May I have a motion to adopt these minutes, please, of April 8th, 2021? So moved and seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Is there any business arising from the minutes or unfinished business? Okay. Well, then we will come up to the next thing on our agenda, which is Annex B of your package. And this is Mr. Brian Anderson of BC Ferries, and it's regarding a summer ferry service trial. So, Mr. Anderson, over to you.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. As you said, my name is Brian Anderson. I'm the Vice President of Strategy and Community Engagement at BC Ferries. And I'm here to talk to you today about an exciting proposal for the Sunshine Coast Ferry Service this summer. At the heart of the proposal is an acknowledgement that the current model no longer fully meets the needs or expectations of the Sunshine Coast residents and visitors, especially during the peak season. And we believe it is time to try something different.
Okay. And I'm just going to share my screen and share your slides. Just one moment.
Perfect. Here. Thank you.
Perfect. Can everyone see that?
Excellent. And I'll just, I'll give you a nod when we can move to the next slide, please. And
actually,
we'll start here.
You'll have to give me a verbal cue as because I've gone to full screen mode, I've lost everyone. So just tell me when you're ready to move on. And if you can keep your questions to the end, unless it's pertinent to the slide we're on, and it'll have to be through a verbal cue, if that's okay.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Great. Well, thank you again. At the heart of our proposal is the acknowledgement that the model is not fully meeting the needs or the expectations any longer. And we believe now is the time to try something different. Over the years, we've heard many ideas from the community and our operational employees about how the service can be improved. And we are proposing to trial a number of these concepts this season to address the main areas of concern. Those are travel uncertainty, stress, affordability, and long waits. Many of these factors are the result of limited reservation space and more people arriving with vehicles than can be accommodated on a specific sailing, despite other sailings leaving with unused capacity. We believe this new approach will smooth out demand over the course of the day, provide travel certainty, reduce the likelihood of sailing waits, and also congestion on the roads. Residents and visitors will no longer need to arrive hours early in the hopes of being able to travel. Next slide, please. The trial is designed to test a new way of oh, sorry, that's actually 2 slides. 1 slide back, please.
Sorry, Brian. See, now I know why you didn't want to do this.
It's a great responsibility.
There we go.
There we go, great. So the trial is designed to test a new way to travel. Summarized here, providing free reservations, providing lower fares for travel booked in advance, with deeper discounts for travel booked at less busy times, making almost all the space on the vessel available to book in advance while protecting space on every sailing for priority emergency services and medical assured loading, enhancing travel certainty for those traveling for other medical appointments by providing free reservations in both directions, making Langdale a fare paid terminal for vehicles only, introducing more flexible booking and change policies with the ability now to book up to 45 minutes prior to sailing time, and increasing disincentives for disruptive last-minute cancellations and no-shows. Next slide. We are proposing this trial in response to feedback received from the community and our employees. The trial is not designed to encourage non-essential travel during COVID-19 health restrictions, but rather to improve the travel experience for those who must travel. We believe the trial will help smooth demand over the course of the day, reducing congestions at our terminals and making the travel experience safer for those who are traveling for essential reasons. Increasing reservations will also reduce the experience of long delays at the terminal and will minimize the time in lineups and public spaces. Next slide, please. This summarizes the fare options. New fare options will provide reduced rates for all customers who reserve in advance. Personal vehicle fares will range from $14.50 to $25 each way when booked ahead. The personal vehicle fare to travel without a reservation would rise to $33 each way. Vehicle fares will be paid at each terminal. Driver and passengers will pay for a return fare exiting Horseshoe Bay Terminal only. Walk-on customers will not need to make reservations. This structure is designed to improve the efficient flow of people and vehicles through the terminals. Next slide, please. We acknowledge this is a bold change in the way customers plan and travel. We will ensure the community is well informed about changes to their travel experience prior to the start of the trial. We will extend our information campaign to visitors to the region who otherwise would not know about the change in process. It will also be supported by ongoing community and customer engagement activities throughout the trial. And at the end of the trial, all the feedback will be essential to understanding what worked well and what can be improved to inform future service. Next slide, please. Trying something different this summer may enhance the service and support the community's traveling needs. We think this approach will address the key concerns raised over the years and lead to less congestion, less frustration, more affordable travel choices, more comfort, and ultimately greater travel certainty. And last slide, please. These concepts have been reviewed and received broad support by the Ferry advisory committees, and by industry members of the Upper and Lower Sunshine Coast community. Yes, there's still some details to work out, and your feedback is important in that regard. At this stage, we are seeking your support and endorsement as community leaders to proceed with a trial this summer. I now welcome any feedback or questions you may have to support this request. Thank you.
Okay, terrific. Thank you, Brian, for your presentation. And I will go to directors for questions and comments. So first off, I have Director McMahon, please.
Yeah, I was just wondering how this will affect commercial customers, trucks primarily. Are they going to have reservations too?
Yes, thank you. I can address. Yep, we are looking at two benefits for commercial vehicles. One is right now commercial vehicles are competing for the same space as every other vehicle on the ferries. We're going to enable commercial vehicles to have some options for reduced fares as well, to see if we can assist them in spreading out their demand over the course of the day and incentivizing them to do so. Also, by encouraging those other vehicles that are all competing for the same space to offer at or to travel at other times of the day, we believe they will enable more commercial vehicle capacity on those popular sailing times.
Okay. Director Todd, and then Director Beamish.
Thank you for that presentation. I think it's a great idea. And my question is, when would it start?
Great, thank you for the question and for the comment of support. If we get endorsement and we continue to proceed down the trial, we would be looking to announce formally the ability to book under this new model near the end of May for travel in the third week of June. That gives enough booking window for people to get into the new model. And we would see the trial continue through to just after Thanksgiving.
Okay. Director Beamish and then Director Toth.
Yes, Brian, hi again.
Hi.
Brian, the two things come to mind. One is a comment, and that is that BC Health recently had a problem with the increased call volumes relative to vaccinations. So how are you going to address the increased call volumes that you anticipate relative to these reservations?
Great, thank you. So yes, in terms of booking, we allow people to book online, comfortable to do so, to take that approach. We continue to offer the ability to book at the terminal for those individuals who do that already. We are exploring options to involve third-party visitor information centers, for example, to be trained to assist with those who need to make bookings and need a bit of assistance or maybe an access to computer to do so. But for those who do need to book or do want to call, we will be prioritizing for the period of the trial, prioritizing calls for this region into the call queue. And during the peak season, we already ramp up our support staff. So the access for those who do need to make calls related to this trial will be prioritized in our queue.
Thank you. And just for the board's information, and we had a presentation from Brian on Tuesday, and council resolved to support the proposal for the travel certainty project for Route 3, and also asked BC Ferries to consider two things. One was an improvement to the 10-minute cutoff at Horseshoe Bay, which often frustrates especially commuters or bus passengers who jump off the bus and find out they're going for a beer and not catching a ferry, and to look at ways to improve that process. And secondly, because there's looking at the ways of managing highway traffic, particularly in Langdale area, we would anticipate the overflow parking area to be vacant. and looking at the overflow parking area to be an open parking area for those people who currently park up on the highway or park up on the roads, or have difficulty finding parking in the lower lot. And maybe that could simply be a free parking area for those who arrive there and want to park and ride the ferry. So looking at those two options is something that would also improve service. So thank you.
And I can thank you, Mayor Beamish. I have begun. I've raised both of those considerations with our terminal operations team, and we have committed to look into opportunities for both of those and report back to you and your council.
Thank you.
Director Toth and then Director McMahon.
Thank you, Chair. Getting some weird echoes there. I don't know where the problem lies, but the District of Sechelt did also see a presentation from BC Ferries, and a couple of comments back from that, and then I do have one question. The discussion at Sechelt looked at feeling that the 95% reserve level might be a little bit too high. It is conceivable that if you're looking at 95% reserved, that's only 15 vehicles per sailing. You could actually end up getting stuck, unable to travel, conceivably. And then the other concern that we had was around accessibility, particularly with our older population, our older demographics. Anybody who might not be technologically savvy, making sure that they had access to the reserved pricing, even if they just drove up and flashed their gold care card. In terms of a question, when we had discussed this previously, you were also looking at something around the passengers. And if I heard you correctly in your presentation today, you'd be looking at the passenger fares only being paid in Horseshoe Bay. And would there be any changes to the passenger fares? I know right now we've got experience card, non-experience card pricing. So my question there.
Great, thank you. And I'll address your comment, if I may, about the 95%. That is one of the areas we're going to keep a close eye on. That number was chosen because we looked at a year's worth of historical data with regards to the number of emergency vehicles and those traveling for medical assured loading purposes across all the sailings. We did find one instance, there were 15 vehicles on a specific sailing. And so we feel confident that that number is a good working number to begin with, but we will keep our eye on that. And if we see any changes, we can look to see whether that needs to be addressed. But it was based on a review and a method. In terms of passenger fare collection, we are proposing to only collect people fares, so driver and passenger fares, out of Horseshoe Bay, primarily because it does not introduce the need to collect those fares at Langdale, where there is less infrastructure available to process. Also to really ensure that we are as efficient and fast as possible at Langdale by getting people off the roadway where there's already a bit of a choke point at that intersection. In terms of the fares, however, you mentioned the experience card rate. Through the proposal, we will be reducing the rate or offering the rate, the experience card rate, to all passengers. So you do not need to have an experience card in order to get access to those reduced rates. And depending on health regulations, that could be seen as an incentive to encourage carpooling or taking other forms of transportation, again, reducing the reliance on the real capacity crunch, which is vehicle deck space. We have lots of capacity on the ferries for passengers. It's the vehicles that end up using up all the space. So if we can encourage people to take other forms of transportation, to carpool or to travel as a foot passenger, we see those two actions as supportive of that ultimate objective.
Okay. Director McMahon.
Yeah, I welcome the opportunity to try something different because, as they've said before, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing again and again and expect different results. And that's kind of how I feel about what we've been doing with the ferries. So, time to give it a great try. Is this going to require some reconfiguration of the Langdale terminal?
We won't be doing any physical reimagining of the terminal. What we are going to do to assist with throughput is introduce a new technology to assist with checking people in quicker. It's a mobile handheld device. It's kind of like you would experience at a sporting event or at a major event where they're just checking your ticket. It does have additional capability to make modifications and to process transactions at the same time, though. So it's not just a check-in device. But we believe by employing these devices in a strategic manner, we'll be able to double the throughput when it's required at the Langdale terminal. And then, of course, with no changes to foot passengers and having to purchase fares, we think combined that will really speed up and address the efficiency at the Langdale terminal.
Okay, Director Ties and then Director Hills.
Thank you. Yeah, regarding 95% booking in advance, right now, and I was kind of being fairly hopeful, you guys just recently revamped your website, and I was hoping that a little bit more mobile friendly version would come out, or God forbid an app. Neither of those have happened yet, and so I'm wondering whether you've considered those kind of problems, I guess, in being able to book on the phone in an easy fashion. And if this is a successful trial, I think, you know, something like a mobile app is certainly something that would need to be incorporated into your guys' plans. I mean, you're not the only ones. I think TransLink is the other obvious one where you go, why do they not have an app? Anyway, just some thoughts.
Great. Well, thank you. You know, we are going to be taking feedback with regards to the booking flow online. We, as you say, we did revamp the website. We do believe that it's in terms of booking much simpler than it was before, but we continue to take feedback and we look at iterative options to improve that flow. In terms of the app, we have begun preliminary work on an app. The app will not be available in time to support the trial. But as you state, if this is successful and the model is a long-standing feature of the future, then I would say an app would be ideally suited to complementing such a model, especially the ability to create favorite routes and have more personal experience and a quicker booking experience for individuals. Points well taken.
Okay, Director Hills and then Director McMahon.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Brian, for the presentation, and thanks to BC Ferries for looking for service improvements, because we're not getting a vote anytime soon. So you got to work with what you got. So I applaud that. But I am going to kind of key in this choke point area. Area that I represent is that area, and that intersection has been problematic, and the traffic control on the bypass. So how do you see the flow into the terminal and through that intersection and along the bypass? Is there going to be changes, or an ideal situation there will not be cars lined up the bypass? Is that kind of would be a sign of success?
Yeah, great comments. Thank you. I mean, ideally, we're not going to have more people show up for a ferry than can fit on a ferry, eliminating the need to queue up for hours outside of the ferry terminal. Now, you know, that being said, your question also spoke to efficiency, because at sometimes it will be queued up waiting to get into the ferry terminal. I spoke briefly about our methods to deploy the mobile point of sale scanners to double the throughput. We are exploring another potential alternative, which is to quickly bring the cars into the terminal, screen to make sure that they have reservations or bookings in advance, but then do the post-screening processing inside the terminal compound itself. There's pros and cons and considerations to both of those models. We may test them both to see which one is most effective. That's the value of a trial, is you are testing some different concepts to really see which ones achieve the benefits that you're trying to target. So if the trial proceeds, I wouldn't be surprised to see various combinations and various uses of those approaches to see which is the best at eliminating primarily, and if we can't eliminate, then to reduce the time, the dwell time on the roads.
Okay, Director McMahon.
Yeah, I'm curious, when and how will you decide whether this trial has been a success? So if crowds are cheering and throwing their hats up in the air and showering you with praise around about, say, Labor Day weekend, would you keep this going permanently, or is the plan to end the trial, then evaluate, and then look at next steps?
Well, as much as I would love to experience that day you just described, our approach at the moment is a trial needs to end. And the trial needs to end because we need to be able to step back as a group and assess how did it work. It may be that we've got every single thing perfectly right with the model that exists right now. It may be that this trial has got everything right, or it may be that it's a little bit of both. And so I think it's very important that we really focus on getting feedback through the trial, and then at the end of the trial, it goes back to the way it is. We look through the results, and then we make a determination together whether we want to go forward in a different way or whether we want to keep it the way it was.
Director Seekers.
Thank you. You probably have this on your list, but I'm assuming we're going to have a big sign on the way into the terminals on each side so that people know it's a trial and that we want feedback. That's it.
Yes, absolutely. And when you say a big sign, I think there's going to be several big signs. I think there's going to be a community blitz. I think there's going to be using every available communications channel and leveraging the collective voices of community leaders and chambers of commerce and tourism industry associations and schools. Every mode of travel is going to need to be aware that things will be different for a few months this summer, and we'll have to advertise. Not only that, but why? Why are we doing it? What are we hoping to achieve? And when will it end? And then what will happen at the end?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we are at the end of our speakers list. And so Brian, you have an ask for you would like us to the regional district to provide support for this trial. I understand that's the ask.
That is correct, yes. We are seeking your formal endorsement and support of the trial.
Okay. So I'll look to directors or look to staff for wording, or if you'd like to put a motion forward. Corporate officer, did I see your hand up? Nope, okay. I see our deputy corporate officer has her hand up. So Ms. Hill, if you could, we'll go to you, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. That the SCRD board supports BC Ferries' proposed trial of a new booking model to address vehicle accommodation issues for the Langdale Horseshoe Bay ferry route.
Director Toth, Director Toth, I saw, well, I have Director McMahon and then Director Toth, please.
I was just going to move that.
Okay. Director Toth, were you going to move that, or were you
I was going to
suggest
add for the summer of 2021 onto that and then move it.
Okay. So Director McMahon had moved it. Director Toth, would you like to second it, and then we'll make that amendment?
If nobody seconds it, it dies and we can try again, right?
That's true too. I see no seconder. Okay, so let's try this again. Director Toth, would you like to make that motion with the change of adding the summer of 2021?
Yes, please. I will move that.
And Director McMahon, I'm going to assume you're going to second that. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Process is the kindest thing we can do for each other, right? So, or one of the kind things we can do. Up there with wearing masks even. Okay, so we have that moved and seconded. Are there any comments or further discussion on this? And Brian, I'm assuming that's sufficient for, that works for you, for your organization?
Yes, that's very appreciative. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Excellent. Do we need to, is that motion sufficient, and or do you need it in a letter, or I don't know, corporate officer, what would we typically do in this case? Process-wise.
So the motion would just appear in the official public record in our minutes. If there's further action, then we should make a resolution to
write a letter, sort of thing. Yeah. Mr. Anderson, do you need a letter, or is the motion on the public record sufficient?
I'm comfortable with the motion on the public record. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming and presenting to us today, and for all of the communication and engagement you've done on this, including meeting with the Ferry advisory committees and with councils, and as well as with the business community. And as you said, you know, be bold, and sometimes you need to be bold to make something happen. So let's see how this works.
Absolutely. The planning ramps into full gear right now. So thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. Okay, so with that, we will now move on to our reports. First up is Annex C, pages 13 to 14 of our package. And in number 4 on your agenda, which is the Infrastructure Services Committee recommendations, numbers 1 through 5 of April 8th, 2021. Directors, are there any of these recommendations that you would like to pull out to debate separately before we move them as a block? Director Hiltz.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Recommendation number 2, curbside recycling.
Okay. Directors, any of the other ones that you'd like to discuss separately before we move the rest as a block? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt recommendations 1, 3, 4, and 5 of the Infrastructure Services Committee of April 8th, 2021. May I have a motion, please? So moved Director McMahon, seconded Director Seegers. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Director Hiltz, over to you for recommendation number 2, please.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, in the recommendation, what I'm looking at is the "and further that," and the way it reads right now, it doesn't seem to have the scope in order to kind of answer some of the questions that happened during the deliberation. We spent over like 60 minutes going on this topic, and there was a number of issues, the cost benefit of the recycling, the diversion tonnage, the effect on Gibson's recycling, what's in the program, what's not in the program. So there's a lot of questions. And I don't really see how and further that the report just focuses on delivery models and doesn't seem to address many of the issues that we were talking about. So that's I'm looking about perhaps adding some additional scope so that when it comes back, we have the information to make decisions.
Okay. GM Rosenboom, do you wish to comment on that?
Thank you for the opportunity. During the meeting, we took extensive notes, and of course, we have the recordings of the meetings. So our intent is to address the issues raised by Director in the report as specified. If the board would like to, there's always opportunity to provide additional direction.
Okay. Director Hiltz, did you have suggested additional direction that you'd like to add on to that, or?
Yeah, it would be something like to just to say essentially what GM Rosenblum said, to incorporate the concerns or the issues raised at the committee. So rather than just restricting to the 2 streams and options and further questions that were raised at the committee meeting, something like that.
Okay.
Just to open the scope a little bit more.
Okay, so would it be, okay, so if we were to add an additional, do you want an additional and that, or just even if you bring in as one of the points in the and further that staff bring forward a report outlining options, including 2-stream versus single stream, options for blue bins, and other issues as brought forward at committee? Is that sufficient?
I think we're getting there. I would say we could just put a comment in going, such as the diversion tonnage, cost benefit, and the effect on the Gibson's depot. Those are the main ones that seem to be coming out of the discussions that I had heard. So we could just add a couple, such as, perhaps.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry about that.
So including, yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying. So including 2-stream versus single stream, options for blue bins, diversion cost recovery, and effects on depot owners.
Depot operations, sure.
Depot operations.
I think we're close enough for me.
Okay. GM Rosenboom, is that clear?
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Okay, and Deputy Corporate Officer, did you get that?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Okay, so Director Hiltz, would you move that recommendation with those changes? Director Hiltz, I see a yes.
Oh, yes, that was my waiting for Donna's sign. Yes, moved. Thank you.
Okay, and I saw Director McMahon seconded that amended recommendation. Okay. So are any further discussion on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Thank you. So next up, we have Annex D of our package, starting on page 15. And this is the Planning and Community Development Committee recommendations of April 15th, 2021. Director McMahon had wanted to pull number 7, which incidentally is also, I didn't catch this because I didn't have enough time to look at my my amended agenda before we started this meeting, but we actually do have, as a late item, we do have the letter as referenced in on the amended agenda that's referenced in recommendation number 7. So Director McMahon, do you still want to pull recommendation number 7?
Actually, I'd like to pull 3. Recommendation 3, 7, and 9.
Okay, so pulling 3, 7, and 9. Okay. Directors, are there any of the other recommendations that you would like to pull from the block before we move them, with the exception of 3, 7, and 9? Okay, so I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt recommendations 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 8 of the PCD committee of April 15th, 2021. We have that motion. Thank you, Director McMahon. Seconded, Director Toth. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, Director McMahon, we'll start with recommendation number 3, please.
I just had a question, which was when might we hear back on this topic? The whether the MIA risk control study is merited. Do we have an ETA when we might expect to hear about that?
Okay, GM Hall or?
Thank you, Chair. So staff have already started reviewing how this could fit with criteria for that program, but I guess it's in progress and we're awaiting board direction. Thanks.
Okay, Director Toth.
Thank you, Chair. If Director McMahon hadn't pulled this, I was going to ask that it be pulled because I know in conversation we talked about not just at the park, but also the downstream, down washout area. And I just wasn't sure if the downstream part of it was captured within the recommendation that we did pass.
Okay, I'd look to, I'll go to Director Hiltz first, and then we'll come back to staff.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, that's a good reminder from Director Toth. It was also other SCRD interests, which is the pump house in the Sums Creek, right? So that was the other aspect I think we were talking about. We don't really care about motis washing out of the highway, I suppose. That's not our issue. It's an SCRD's interest specifically.
Okay. Okay. I'll go to Director McMahon and then come back to staff.
Yeah, I just wondered if we might get an update at the next planning meeting. I realize that we might not have a definitive answer, but it's a fairly urgent issue. And if this is not, I'd just like to stay on top of it is what I'm saying. Okay.
GM Hall, if we action this today, what are the chances of getting any answer back by the next planning meeting? Probably slim.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not the only cook in that kitchen, so I would need to liaise with our risk manager and others. I can commit to offering at least an update, if not an answer. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Okay. So directors, would you like to further carry out a little bit more on this recommendation, adding in other SCRD interests in the area, as I've heard from the discussion about the pump house, etc., or are you comfortable with the recommendation as is now? Because I'm either going to look for a motion to adopt this recommendation or look for another recommendation that amends it slightly, so staff knows if you want to scope it a little differently. Director Hiltz.
I'm happy to add after the drainage issue and other SCRD area interests. That's pretty broad. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that still gives staff, would that be good for staff? Clear as mud?
Yep.
Clear as water drainage issues?
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. All right. So Director Hiltz, that's what you'd like to move that as amended?
Yes, Chair,
Or
motivating
that
that, yes.
amended Okay, and seconded Director McMahon. Any further discussion on this recommendation? Seeing none, I'll just first make sure our deputy corporate officer has that.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I've added and other SCRD areas of interest.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Next up, number 7, recommendation number 7, Director McMahon.
Yes, as discussed at our last meeting, I did draft a potential letter. I apologize that it's not perhaps as articulate as it could be, as I did it on the fly, having left it to the last minute, which is just exactly how my university career went. But in general, our director is happy with content.
Okay, well, we can actually, because we do have it on as new business, the letter itself, we can go ahead and we can move this recommendation, and then we can discuss the letter more in depth when we get down to the item of new business, if that's all right. Okay, Director Toth, I saw your hand.
So moved.
So moved, and do I see a seconder with Director McMahon? Any further discussion on this item at this time? We'll deal with it in new business. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Next up, Director McMahon, recommendation number 9.
Yeah, the only possibility to add to recommendation number 9 is that Flinro widen who they consider stakeholders in this process. Their definition of stakeholders was very narrow and took a whole lot of people by surprise, including Scredo and Sunshine Coast Tourism and all the local governments, none of whom were had this referred to them. So I throw that out there as a possibility. I understand that Flinro is, they've had several meetings with various members of the public and what we think of as stakeholders, and they are reluctant to extend the deadline, but that's a kind of a separate issue.
Okay. So you're proposing an additional, and that the SCRD encourage the Ministry of Forest Lands, Natural Resource Operations, and Rural Development expand their circle or expand their definition of stakeholders in this issue? Is that
To
the
include
wording you
local governments.
To include local governments?
Yes, because we can always refer it on further to ourselves if we know about it. We don't necessarily have to, reply ourselves.
Okay. And were there any other changes to this recommendation that other directors would like to see? Okay. Okay, so Director McMahon, you'd like to move that then as with that change, that recommendation with that change? Okay, and Deputy Corporate Officer, do you have that there?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I've added an additional, a new and further that the SCRD encouraged Flinro to expand their definition of stakeholders to include local governments.
Okay, terrific. Okay, so Director McMahon has moved that. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Corporate Officer. Do I have a seconder for that? I have a seconder in Director Ties. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I will ask for I will call the question and ask all those in favor. Thank you. Motion carries. All right. Moving on. We have the 5A, which is the Corporate and Administrative Services Committee recommendations, numbers 1, 9, and 10 of earlier today, and this is pages 18 to 19 of our package. Directors, do you wish to further debate any one of these items before we move them as a block? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt these recommendations from earlier today. So move Director Toth, seconded Director Seegers. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you, motion carries. Next up, number 6 is our Chief Administrative Officer's report of April 22nd, 2021. CEO McKinley, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Busy month again. We've been doing a lot of prep to welcome our new General Manager of Community Services, Shelley Gagnon, who's going to be joining us on the 1st of June. We did have a chance to meet with her briefly on Tuesday, and Shelley had a chance to meet via Zoom a number of the staff from Parks, Recreation, and Transit, which was really positive. It was a really good opportunity, and I think it went really well. We're all very excited to have Shelley come aboard and join us on June 1st. We did the real estate board presentation earlier this month, and I think it went really well. I wanted to acknowledge Chair Pratt, Dave Patey, and Shane Walke for their excellent presentations and the question and answer session. The other bit of exciting news, Let's Talk SCRD is now officially launched, which is www.scrd.ca/Let's Talk. This is a website that features a number of ways to engage with SCRD, including discussion forums, polls, idea boards, and surveys, all in one spot. In the coming weeks and months, Let's Talk SCRD will offer residents the opportunity to play a significant role in public engagement for the SCRD's budget, regional water projects, and other initiatives. Residents can log on to contribute to helping shape the future of the Sunshine Coast and to share their ideas on how the SCRD can make life better in the region. And as our Manager of Communications, Aidan Buckley, eloquently stated, the goal of Let's Talk SCRD is for residents to share their voice, ideas, opinions, and insight into the work that we are carrying out each and every day in communities along the Sunshine Coast. This website does not replace face-to-face engagement. Instead, it's intended to complement engagement activities into the future. Except when Aidan said it, he said about 15 times. A few items that are upcoming. The AAP process for water metering starts next month. It's going to be running from May 21st to July 7th. And then another exciting thing is next week is Staff Appreciation Week. And we didn't have the opportunity to do Staff Appreciation Week last year because of its ill timing around COVID and the fact that we were too busy trying to figure out how to respond to that. So this year, while we can't do it in person, we've got a number of events actually planned for next week for staff appreciation. And there's going to be several sessions, and we're going to be sharing the Zoom coordinates and the schedule and the times with all of you as directors, because you're all very welcome to join in on any of those sessions that you'd like to attend. And in fact, I think it's fair to say that your attendance would be very welcomed and a great show of support for staff. So please feel free to attend any you would like. And then the following week is North American Occupational Safety and Health Week, which we call NAOSH Week, and that runs from May 2nd to 8th. And the prelude for that is a National Day of Mourning for those who have lost their lives on the job, and that's scheduled for April 28th. So those are two things that are upcoming, and that is my CAO update, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you so much.
Okay, does Senior Manager Parker have a song for us to sing? No. Nothing to Sweet Caroline. One question, CAO, is the real estate board was supposed to be sending out a link to the recording of the the event. I'm just wondering if you'd seen it yet, because it'd be nice to share with the directors, especially the municipal, so they could see and plan their own sessions.
Thank you, Chair. You know what? I don't see it here, but I'll follow up with Cheryl and see if she has sent it where it went, and if she hasn't, I'll try to get an ETA for you.
Excellent, thank you. Directors, any questions for the CAO? Okay, seeing none, I will move on. Thank you very much, CAO McKinley. We have no communications today. We have no motions. We have no bylaws. What? But we do have directors' reports. And so we will do this. I will start off the director's reports today, as I typically follow up at the end. And then from there, it will be by volunteer. So you can see who raises your hand first. I will start off by also extending my gratitude to CEO McKinley, Manager Dave Patey, and Manager Shane Walke for the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver, the presentation. It was a lot of fun, and they actually, I ended up facilitating it as well because I wear that dual hat. So it was interesting. A lot of great questions and a lot of great feedback came from to me from the realtors from behind, and after they'd seen it. Thank you, Directors McMahon and Hiltz. You were there in the audience, and I'm sure it was interesting to you as well. Or if not, you'll tell me about it, I'm sure. But it was good, and it was a good conversation. Things that I've been up to. Yesterday was the RCMP Lower Mainland Division update to or what they call the Mayor's Forum, which they actually do invite the regional district chairs to as well. I was unfortunately only able to attend about an hour of the 3-hour meeting. It's very informative, and Mayors Seegers and Beamish were there as well, and I'm sure they'll be able to. I'm not sure when they had to leave, but it's really interesting to hear about a lot of the issues that are going on. I think one of the biggest takeaways is with the city of Surrey removing themselves from the RCMP and going to a private police force. It's going to have a lot of implications on other municipalities across the Lower Mainland. And just that transition from RCMP to a city detachment is quite a change just in the way they operate, and also the governance structure as they move from one to another. So there'll be more information coming, and we have a commitment to hear more from them as they go. Couple of nights ago, the Vaucroft Improvement District, so out on Thormanby Island, had their annual general meeting. It was really interesting, and they invited me there, and it was good. And one of the pieces that is always of concern is there's an area right by the Vaucroft dock on the beach there that's used for transportation, and I'm not going to use the word park because there's a lot of community history around that, but it was a very interesting conversation about. We talked about what it would look like to have a management plan there, and so hopefully we'll have something come up next year and look at some community engagement. And I look forward to speaking with GM Hall a little bit more about what we might do there or how that might look going forward. But I was very pleased to be there and hear about some of the concerns that are going on in the community. Also earlier last week was a Ferry Advisory Committee meeting. with the BC Ferries proposal, as we heard earlier today. Really enjoyed that. Lots of great discussion. Upcoming, looking forward to Sechelt Library Board this weekend. The Let's Talk Water event is happening on Monday nights, starting at 6:30. Coordinates are online at scrd.ca. And then next up, May 6th, is the Rural Area Grant and Aid conversation, which is going to be a great long conversation on helping our community associations, and then the local government show that evening. And other than that, I think that's about all I've got today. And for my first volunteer for director's reports, I have Director Toth.
Initially I was like, yeah, I don't have much to report, but I'll type while Chair Proud is talking, and it's turned into quite a bit here. So whatever, I'll get it out of the way. District of Sechelt has finished committee discussions and debate around budget. We're looking at 9.92% increase for 2021. We also had a last minute conversation around a contribution to our affordable housing reserve to be funded from a small tax levy. And there wasn't a lot of appetite to be sort of bringing it forward at the last minute. We did have a committee of the whole yesterday, and then also a council meeting yesterday. So we're going to be bringing it back at the start of the 2022 budget season for discussion and community consultation. I attended the Community Forest Board meeting last week, where the draft operations plan for the next few years was discussed. It's out for the community to review and provide feedback. And they're going to be hosting an open house on May 13th at 4 p.m. You can get more information and view the documents at sccf.ca. I believe the consultation period is open until June 15th. Sechelt is also restanding its sewer commission. So that's 2 members from the District of Sechelt Council, 2 members from the Sechelt Nation, along with a chair that's elected or chosen from the general public. The commission will be looking at our sewer integration with the Sechelt Nation, including cost sharing, future planning, community growth. In a way, it's our local form of a shared decision-making table. So Councillor McLean and I will be sitting on there on behalf of the District of Sechelt. We brought forward amendments to update our building and plumbing bylaws because one of them is quite out of date, and we're updating rather than repealing and replacing because we have sprinklering requirements in there, which it was expressed that if we repeal the bylaw, we can't reintroduce the sprinklering requirements. So we're gutting and amending, but otherwise keeping the bylaws. One of the things that's being proposed by our new chief building official is adding a foundation permit. So a developer can come, they can get their foundation permit, they can start digging, excavating, building their foundations before they get their main building permit, which allows them to start earlier on their projects and start marketing their projects a little bit earlier. And then beyond that, I received my $1 ICBC rebate check in the mail. That was exciting and highlighted the occasional silliness of the rubber meeting the road with government policies. That's all I have to report today.
Thank you, Director Toth. The foundation permit brings forward the vision of the Parks and Recreation TV show with the big hole in the ground from the apartment building that never happened. But I need to correct, thank you, GM Rosenboom. It's Monday at 6 p.m., not 6:30 p.m. So my apologies. Thank you, GM Rosenboom.
I'm just going to tag on to that real quick because the foundation permit is going to require a sizable deposit from developers to ensure that we don't get left with any giant holes in the ground that we then have to deal with.
Excellent. Thank you. Next up, I have Director Beamish and then Director Ties.
Yes, thank you. I'll be quick. I appreciate the opportunity. 3 things. First of all, Tuesday night, Council resolved to name the new road in Parkland as Celia Crescent after Celia Fisher. who was a longtime community volunteer as well as a member of the regional district board at one time. And I did comment it was going to be called Fisher Crescent, but in recognition there already is one in Grantham's area. It was decided that not to confuse 911 too much, that we better call this Celia Crescent, which I think in her case is much more appropriate. She was a first name person. And I think that it's really good to be able to use that first name as a recognition of her. So look forward to that. That might be the last name street we have for a while in Gibson, because we're kind of moving away from the pioneer names to other names, other opportunities. Recognition of Earth Day, we started off first reading on an animal attracted bylaw, and this is to kind of help the wildlife in the community and not put them at risk, so that we gave a first reading. We've been looking at moving that forward through the process. Wanted to give the community an opportunity to provide comment on the bylaw, because when you take the bird feeders away and you make people pick their trees and things like that, it's certain infringement on rights in some people's minds. So we're just going to move that forward, but hopefully that it will have an impact on the wildlife this season. And finally, we also brought forward our single-use plastic bylaw, which we had started last year as well. Set that aside because of all the legal issues that were going on with it. They've seemed to be resolved. I think there's a half dozen communities now with single-use plastic bylaws. So we moved ours to second reading. The idea is that we would probably get it to third reading with a view to final adoption implementation sometime in 2022, just giving the businesses a chance to prepare for it, so that we're looking at that. So those are the highlights. That was another long day, by the way. So these days get longer. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Director Beamish. Up next, Director Ties, and then Director McMahon.
Chair, just wanted to let you know that there is no Ties Crescent and no Andreas Crescent yet, so those are both still available. Thank you to the Coast Mountain Bike Association for fundraising over $2,000 to get the big RV removed out of the woods. And that was all spearheaded by Tim Howard. And so that was successfully removed last Saturday. So thank you. And also thank you to staff for the housing needs workshop and the timely attention that staff is bringing to all that. I know that the plates are full, and I appreciate the urgency behind all of staff's actions around that. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ties. Director McMahon, and then Director Hiltz.
Great. It's not only longer days, it's AGM season. I have been to 4 AGMs in the last 2 weeks and was, participating in 2 of them. If Mayor Beamish has noticed how beautiful the Highway 101 shoulders look in front of A&W, that may be because a flash mob of cyclists turned up on April the 8th with shovels and brooms and wheelbarrows and everything. And boy, that really needed a lot of cleaning, I got to tell you. I've been meeting with people for walks because the weather's been so nice, and it's really great to get out and to talk to real live people. It's very exciting. I talked to 5 whole people one day, and I was like, whoa! Anyway, I've also talked to people on phone and Zoom. Was talking to Gravity Guinard about the Sunshine Coast Youth Council, so I believe we're going to have a delegation on that fairly soon. April the 10th, I climbed down into the Chester Creek Ravine with the stream keepers, and we examined the culvert at the end of Cureton Road. So culverts are my new hobby for a while, because the culvert at the end of Cureton was installed around 1980 after a major washout there. And it leads, there's an entryway, and then the pipe leads all the way down the embankment to the stream to prevent erosion, such as is happening, in Granthams. There was a similar culvert at Whitaker Creek, which rusted out and broke and failed. And guess what happened there? What concerns me is that these culverts are old, they're aging, and they have not been maintained for 30 years. So this is a really big problem around here. And I see no evidence that Modi is doing anything about it. We're going to have more failures if we cannot get some action from the province. On April the 13th, we had the housing workshop, which was very educational. On the 14th, I listened into the Real Estate Foundation presentation. And then I went to a meeting about Handy Dart with BC Transit and our own transit manager, James Walton. Also the seniors planning table and other interested folks we are starting a custom transit working group to review the Handy Dart service on the coast. Anybody who is interested should contact James Walton. There were a lot of interesting things that I learned in that meeting. One of them is something that's sort of obvious, but not entirely, is that all of the BC Transit regular buses now are wheelchair equipped, right? They will kneel and they have a ramp and everything. But the vast majority of our bus stops are not handicapped accessible. So it doesn't really help us that much. And there are 560 people registered for Handy Dart, which actually surprised me. And about 200 of them are regular users. Also on April 14th, I spent some time on the phone with Vanessa Craig, who is the Area B Director for Nanaimo Regional District. And she is also the rural areas rep to AVICC. And we had a conversation about rural issues. And she said that AVICC is looking very seriously at ramping up their advocacy activities. In order to do that, they would need more staffing, because right now they just have a part-time person from UBCM who does minor stuff. But, it's like every other area, it's a capacity issue. But from my standpoint, if AVICC would do more advocacy, then we would be combining our efforts as a number of local governments, and we would get more bang for our buck. So let's urge them to do so. That day too was also the Elphinstone Community Association AGM. On the 16th, I was at the Gibson's Chamber. Talks have restarted about amalgamation of the three coast chambers, so keep your fingers crossed. I also talked that day with Johan Stroman, who is the contractor working for Destination BC and Sunshine Coast Tourism on an engagement around sustainable tourism. So they have two focus areas for this engagement, which are water conservation for the tourism sector and visitors, and sustainable transportation. And I believe they'll be coming to talk to us more about that. On the 19th, I attended the housing emergency meeting, also educational in a sort of a negative way. And on the 20th, I was at the Climate Caucus elected officials meeting where folks shared tips about how to move forward climate actions at board and council tables. One of the folks sent out a short follow-up after that meeting with some bullet points of tips, and they were quite good ones. If anybody's interested, I could forward that on. And I was at the museum's AGM last night, and that's about it for me.
Busy as always, Director McMahon. I have Director Hiltz, Lee, and Seegers. So, Director Hiltz, over to you.
Thanks, Chair. I guess what I have in common with Area E is rusted out culverts. There's The experience in Area F is break and fix. When a sinkhole, when a hole develops in a road, they come and they fix it eventually. It's happened in Grantham's and Langdale as well. So the real estate board, I found that actually very, very interesting to hear different audience, right? Different audience than what I'm used to, and how staff presented themselves. I was really impressed by the quality of the answers and how staff were responding. Gibson's and District Public Library monthly meeting was this month. Tomorrow is the How Sound Community Forum. Begins at 10 and ends at 12:30. And on a personal note, I get to say that I am one of the 12,000 people on the Sunshine Coast that has received a vaccine. I was fortunate to receive an AstraZeneca vaccine from one of the local pharmacies. So yeah, I'm, the second one is booked. So yeah, I was really pleased and grateful to be able to receive the vaccine. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Hiltz, and thank you for going out and getting your vaccine. That's fantastic. Director Lee.
Thank you, Chair. There's a Howard White article in the April Harbor Spiel. It's all about how the existing features here on the coast were named and how silly it really is. It's great reading. Very clearly in support of name changes, mentioned that it should not be a need. It should have been named right to start with. I'm actually looking forward to the community engagement and discussing about name changes and just what we can rename. I think it's quite exciting opportunity. I've been working with the not-for-profits who are proposing a few different projects. One of them that's quite interesting is increasing the parking at Dan Bosch Park. There's a safety issue. It got really busy last year and people were parking on the road. And they're suggesting that we should be making the parking lot bigger so they don't have to do that. But then once they got the groups, various not-for-profits groups actually got talking about it, they thought, well, why wouldn't we have a human-powered watercraft launching place? And why not a bigger picnic area? So anyways, I asked them to put together a reasonable proposal and something that sounded like a multi-year. And so they're busy doing that. But I also asked them to address the community concerns that were brought up, because there's concerns about late night noise, illegal fires, all the typical things that happen in the parks. But of course, I told them that we're going to have really good bylaw now and it's all going to go away. Well, I might not have said that, but I give them some hope. There was another one they were talking about, and it's been talking about for quite a long time, but they're actually moving forward on it too, the same way. And that's a path around Catherine Lake. If you've been to Catherine Lake Campground, it's a great place for young families. And there is quite a few trails, but the local people think there should be a path all the way around it. It would be scenic, be doable. The kids would love it, as the young families would. And so they're doing pricing and volunteer effort that's going to be required, because they're actually talking about volunteers building it. And I asked them for a realistic multi-year schedule because it's an awful big project. So the reason I'm mentioning this is that we're hoping to have a delegation ready to present to us within this month. So hopefully we'll be able to get to see it and do a thumbs up or down, depending on what we want. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Len. And over to Director Seegers to finish us off.
Thank you. I want to just expand on a couple of things that Director talked about. He said 9.7% increase. Yes. and we have reinstated the 3% increase for capital renewal. So we were doing that for a few years. Last year, we decided not to do that, given we were dealing with the start of the pandemic at that point. We have reinstated that this year. And then just a heads up to staff, the building amendment bylaw will be coming to the regional district and the town of Gibson's as a referral document. So we'll be looking for feedback on that. All right, I just wanted to report most everything else is covered off, so it's great. I'm going to talk about the Downtown Business Association. I attended their meeting yesterday morning. We have 3 more restaurants that will be opening in Seashelt in the next month or so, including 22 Taps, which is where the old Gilligan's pub was. And they said something like 40 restaurants or something, close to 40 restaurants downtown. So Taste of Seashelt will be May 14th through 16th. So watch for that coming out. They also are working on their BIA renewal, so the Business Improvement Area renewal. That has to be in place for next year. So they're working with staff. We'll be also talking with their communities. And then the patios are starting to show up in Seashelt. We approved one last night for the Downtown Business Association. It's the one that they had out last year. They're going to be putting another one out as well. I understand that's going to be coming to a meeting soon. It will be out in front of Pickles. But a lot of the restaurants have responded to the shutdowns under the provincial health orders by adding patios. So come check out patios in downtown Seashelt. Love to have the business. That's all I've got to report. Thank you.
Terrific. Great. Thank you, Director Seegers. Oh, Director Hiltz.
Yes, thanks, Chair. If Director Seegers could just expand on that 3% capital renewal, a little bit of background on that, please.
Okay. This started last term, actually, where we started with a small amount for putting away for capital renewal, capital maintenance, and then we increased the amount each year by 3%. So a 3% increase on that base amount. And then last year, like I said, last year we didn't do that, and we've reinstated it this year. So it's a 3% on top of what we had collected previously.
Thank you. Director Hiltz, that answered your question?
Yes, and
Okay.
I think I'll have to go to the Seashelt website and read up on this a little bit. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Okay. So that brings us down to new business, which is Annex E, pages 20 to 21 of our package. And this is the draft letter of support for Help Cities Lead campaign, as referred per Planning and Community Development Committee recommendation number 7 of April 15th, 2021. Director McMahon, would you like to lead off on this?
Yeah, I reviewed our conversation last week, 2 weeks ago? No, last week. And I made revisions to the suggested letter that I hope reflect the conversation that we had here, especially as regards rural, remote, and small communities. So it probably could use another round of, comma moving and polishing, but substantially, are the rest of the directors happy with it?
Okay. I see a thumbs up from Director Seegers. Not seeing, okay, Director Ties.
Yeah, I think substantially it's good. I think there's one sentence that starts with "and," but other than that, I think it looks pretty good. I'm wondering if, rather than asking them a question, is to just state to them that maybe they should consider that, rather than asking them whether they're considering it. I guess maybe we want to reply.
Okay. Director McMahon, as the author of the letter, anything you'd like to?
No, it's not perfect, but we can get it out the door. It's sort of my view at this point.
Okay. Are you going to defend your "and" at the beginning of a sentence?
It is the privilege of authors to occasionally bend grammatical rules.
Okay. Director Hill.
And I would definitely defer to Director McMahon as understanding the use of the English language. And I think it's a thank you for writing. And I wouldn't attempt it, tinkering with language the way you do. So thank you.
Yes. I get the giggles about this time of the afternoon after a very long day. Thank you very much, Director McMahon, for taking this on and authoring this letter. And we very much appreciate it. Corporate officer, should we just, that we endorse this letter? Is it best to have a motion for that?
Sure, that would be a good conclusion to this, I think.
Okay, great. So what I will ask then for is a, oh wait, Director Ties, you had suggested something about asking for a reply. It's escaped me. You had made a comment about the "and" then there was another thing about the.
There's a question in there asking them if they're considering actually reducing the regulatory burden. And I don't know if you want to turn that question into a statement or not, but I don't think it really changes the message.
Okay. Okay. I'm not seeing strong feelings either way on that. We're happy leaving it as is. Any other thoughts? Director Seegers?
I'll make a motion that we endorse this letter and request the chair sign it and send it on out.
Excellent. Do I see a seconder for that? I see a seconder for that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. And that brings us to the end of our agenda. We have no in-camera. I will ask for a motion to adjourn, and then we will go to questions from the audience. So moved and seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Any questions from our attendees? Please feel free to raise your hand and we can unmute you and bring you in to ask your question. Sunshine Coast Conservation Association, do you have any questions for us today? IT, did any questions come in? Not seeing any. CEO McKinley, did you want the recording for the messages and stuff for staff?
That would be great. We also have, depending on how you guys would like to do it for the timing, we've also got that Let's Talk water discussion as well.
Okay. Is there a separate link, or we were just going to stay online?
I'll just stay online.
Is it just, okay. Is it the same one, Remco?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's different. Sorry.
Okay. So directors, CEO McKinley sent out an email during our lunch break today regarding doing a recording for staff for Staff Appreciation Week as well as for NAOSH Week. How's the best way of handling that going forward, Dean?
I believe we're set up that we can record some greetings or words, and then probably Aiden will splice them together, or Aiden/Cecilia will splice them together to make them look pretty later on. And Jerry was kind enough to put together a few things that I shared, but you're welcome to roll your own as well. So it's however we'd like to go. I guess we just need to make sure with IT that we're ready to go with the recording capability, and I can run down and check real quick.
Okay.
Do you still have an attendee, by the way?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So are we leaving this one and coming back in?
Just hang on.
Okay.
Sherry?
I'm just confirming that we can end the live stream. Can we?